Hello, my name is Ramone Menon, and I'm the writer-director of Once Upon a Time in a Haunted House. I've always been a big fan of overtures in movies like Mad Mad World or Spartacus, and I thought it would be kind of funny to throw it into a short film. Ever since I saw Insidious, I saw the value in opening the film with a brash title card. The idea of starting the movie with a shot of a woman standing by the window came to me partially because of Psycho. When they see the shot, the audience immediately wants to know, who is this woman and what is she doing? Is she a pervert? Is the guy that's watching her a pervert? They don't know. But the questions are asked, and it's a good way of drawing them in. This movie is about an illegal immigrant that takes a job as the caregiver of a malicious ghost at a haunted house, but the audience does not know this information yet. So I wanted to start the film by subverting the information that I hand out. I wanted to start the movie as a typical guy goes on a bad date and bad things are about to happen to him. We introduce the character of Maria in a silhouette, and then we cut to a extreme close-up, and then we slowly reveal parts of her face before we actually reveal a medium shot to kind of keep the sense of mystery about her as much as possible and kind of reflect what Dario is feeling as he takes it in and understands the situation that he's put himself in. It's always effective to show a silhouette or a shadow of a creepy, crawly figure hiding somewhere in the background. It allows them to keep patience with your film and allows you as a filmmaker to develop the characters on screen so that you care about them when bad things happen to them. The idea of two people going on a date where they don't understand each other allows me as the filmmaker to put the character of Dario on the back foot immediately. It's a struggle to maintain tone in a horror movie, but comedy allows the audience to let their guard down before you can get them with the next scare or the next suspenseful beat. I wanted the audience to wonder who the character of Maria is communicating with on her phone. This is a setup that pays off much later in the film. The mismatched subtitles is something I enjoy toying with. You can even bring the subtext out up front and make it text just with the clever use of subtitles. This scene in the kitchen is the first time we've become aware that Maria is up to no good. We shot this scene at the very end of our schedule when we had already gone overtime. The framing of the inserts are not ideal. Here is something you guys need to remember. There is never really a small or inconsequential shot. Every shot needs to be respected, and if you don't respect it, you will be kicking yourself in the edit. Dario notices a decrepit pair of feet while he waits for Maria. In order to heighten the tension in the scene, I decided to play most of the scene on a long, medium take, focusing on Dario rather than cutting to his subjective point of view. This keeps the audience in suspense for longer, as we don't see what Dario sees until there is a beat change when he manages to pull the curtain back. Another piece of advice is do a lot of long takes if you have a very short schedule and a limited amount of time, because this will allow you to spend more time crafting one or two shots and getting them right rather than doing like 5 or 6 shots that will take much longer and probably eat up more time in your schedule. This is the part of the movie where the audience is screaming to the main character, something is wrong, get out of here. I ideally would have liked to have shot this scene and presented it in a different way, because after we shot it and watched it, we realized that it was a scene that could have been condensed and made much shorter and more effective if we presented it in a totally different way. I think the key when you're making a short film is if there's anything superfluous and anything that the audience can already telegraph ahead of time, cut it out. This is one of those scenes that was not cut out, and the film definitely suffers for it. This is a scene that serves as an example where I didn't have the discipline to maintain the tone that I was going for, which was serious, and I allowed some comedic elements to creep in, which did not help the film. A lot of audience members commented on the dramatic left turn that this film takes, and where it goes from a kind of horror comedy into a straight-up horror film. It just depends on how much you want to toy with that. Sometimes that could be interesting when you approach a film in a new way, but sometimes it can go wrong. Since this is a movie about an evil character named Mother, I couldn't help throwing in a shower scene or a scene in a bathroom. This scene was interesting because we had to light it in such a way that it looked like as if it was taking place in total darkness with just a little bit of candlelight, and kind of decide how much stylization you needed for the moon in order to let elements in the scene play with the light. So, because sometimes you can go too far and the scene appears too bright, but I think my cinematographer really figured out the perfect balance between the blue moonlight and the shadows that he created in this scene.
I think I'm locked in your bathroom.
Dario hears something in the bathtub and he wants to go and explore what it is, and we wanted to play up and draw out the tension as much as possible and see how long can you keep stretching time so that you can play with the suspense and just play with the edit in itself.
Is somebody in there? Hello?
There's a very good quote by David Fincher, which is, movies are about making long moments really short and short moments really long, and that's an idea that I wanted to toy with. The actor that played Dario in the sequence, his name is Marvin, and his thumb was so sore after trying to light the lighter so many times. We shot this scene from various angles and had to make him repeat the lighter gag, and we had to keep repeating the shower opening gag many times so we can get it from as many angles as possible in order to pull this sequence off. Setting up a good jump scare takes some time. It's like a good joke. You have to have a proper setup before you hit the punchline. With the jump scare, you almost need to set it up and keep the audience distracted by drawing their attention towards something before you flip it around and hit them with something that they were not expecting. I like toying with different chapter headings because it makes the film more surprising, because you don't know what the filmmaker is going to pull off next. In a linear movie, you kind of get the idea in the first few minutes where the film is going, but if you tell it in this non-linear way and the story actually lends itself to being non-linear, it helps keep the suspense going, and it also helps keep the audience's attention. By getting into Maria's backstory in the second act of the film, we're able to relate with Dario's plight first and then see the reason as to why Maria is doing what she's doing and trying to trap Dario into this horrible situation.
Do you not believe?
Alfred Hitchcock says your movie is only as good as your villain, and we wanted to make sure that the villain in this piece happens to be this old, cranky, almost perverse, racist white dude who preys on Maria as soon as she comes in. He sizes her up, does not see her for anything other than pure gain, and he's almost passing off his responsibilities onto her because he knows that he does not want to be trapped in this house servicing the ghost of his mother.
I'll do anything Mother asks.
I wanted Maria to feel trapped in this scene, so we decided to stick the scene in a hallway that's really tight, and which would allow us to be able to cover the scene from pretty much three angles. One is this wide medium angle, and the other two are these singles that are almost right in front of the actors' faces. It was very difficult for the actors to act out with the camera literally 4 inches from their face. It's something that is hard to ask an actor to do, but both the actors in this scene were more than game to give in their best performance, as they knew that it would create for very arresting shots and create the sense of claustrophobia that's needed. I always wondered why people in haunted house movies didn't just leave the house, and I always found that to be a weakness as part of the story. So hence I wanted to create a story where the character was justified staying in the house. In this case, she wants to save her son's life, and hence she takes this job that's high-paying but very unusual, and she knowingly puts herself into this position of taking care of a ghost even though she does not believe in it. This lends a feeling of being trapped with nowhere to go. I like the idea that the ghost is using the phone as a method of communication between herself and Maria. It's exploring a different facet of technology that is hardly used in haunted house movies, and I thought it would be interesting to have the ghost texting Maria so that it would avoid the whole problem of seeing the ghost talking to Maria, which always, in my mind, dissipates the tension in horror movies or thrillers. Short films are not easy to let scenes just flow and keep going. I feel in horror movies it's important to let scenes breathe so you can use the empty space to create sounds and an atmosphere that if you keep cutting too fast and quickly, I feel that you will not be able to build the tension that's needed in order to pay off either a scare or some suspense that you have carefully built up to. I'm deeply influenced by the giallo genre, and I wanted to mix the haunted house genre with the giallo genre and use zooms and use colorful lighting and a surreal look to tell the story. I can't stress how important sound is. Making little sounds bring the atmosphere to life. It's almost like you'll have to drain the atmosphere completely and just focus on a few little scary sounds that will help heighten the tension of the film. This is another example of a shot where we did a long take. This allowed us to stay in Maria's subjective point of view, keep the tension going, and allow us to screen through a bunch of different shots in the schedule that would have taken probably 3 times as long. A half-open door is always very scary in a horror movie. What's behind the door and what's in the audience's mind is way scarier than anything that you can show them. We delay showing Mother to Maria just so that we can keep the tension going. If I had to redo this scene, I probably wouldn't have even let Maria see Mother in there. Or even if she did see her, she wouldn't have seen her for the length of time that we show her watching Mother.
Vaya con Dios.
Here's another cliched shot of Maria looking back into the room and seeing that Mother is gone, but this helps set up the supernatural element of the film, which amps up Maria's ordeal at the house. Here comes another chapter heading which I'm a big fan of. Doing these title cards sets up a sense of anticipation. Stanley Kubrick said that one of the best things about silent films is they wouldn't need to have long, drawn-out expositions as to who a character is. Instead of showing how a man is somebody's uncle, the title card just saying Billy's uncle would come up. And that's more than enough information for you to guess how the characters relate with each other. There's a reason why so many horror movies use scenes where a character is attacked in either their bedroom or their bathroom. It's because the characters are being attacked in a very personal space when their guard is let down, and this allows for a heightened sense of danger that will keep the audiences at the edge of their seats. The clever use of inanimate objects in horror movies allows to create even more suspense, scares, and tension. It also is light on your budget as well, so if you can figure out a clever way of using a creepy-looking object or a creepy-looking room, that's more valuable than spending a lot of money on practical special effects and visual effects. I can't stress the importance of keeping your monster or your ghost in the shadows. It just allows the audience's imagination to run wild, and you can hide the deficiencies in your practical makeup. Again, the key to a good jump scare is in the build-up. Keep your audiences distracted by looking one way and then hit them from a direction that they're not expecting. It's the little things that make every shot look really creepy. For instance, the little candles at the end of the hallway really bring out and help separate the blank wall that would have been there if we didn't put those candles in there. So whenever you're checking the frame while on set, always look out for little places and little improvements that you can make to the shot. This scene is a classic example of misdirecting the audience so that their eyes are looking at something, in this case the note on the door, and that's when you're going to hit them with something that they did not expect. By subverting the expectations of the audience at this point, you're hitting them with a scare at a point that they do not expect. So that is something that really helps when you're trying to craft the perfect moment to use a jump scare in. This note is a way of explaining what the mindset of Mother is. She's a racist, cannibalistic ghost, which is a heavy combination to be working with. It makes for an effective villain. This shot was inspired by a scene in Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt. It's a scene where a character is reading a note and you have the note filling up the better part of the screen, and I wanted to recreate that in this movie. Our production designer Nicole has great handwriting, so we ensure that she wrote the note for this scene. I loved the chapter headings in the films of Lars von Trier, Tarantino, and Kubrick, and I feel like by titling the title card with an odd title, it seems like a little bit of an in-joke to what's going to happen in the next part of the scene. I enjoy the parts in non-linear movies where things come full circle, and I wanted to ensure that this film had that same feeling of where we leave a scene halfway between, and we come back to the scene after we've been exposed to another piece of information that's crucial to understanding the film. This is another example of a scene where the audience is going to ask, why didn't the character just leave the house? And that's a valid question. Originally, when we planned this scene, the character of Dario was supposed to go to the front door and try to escape, and he would be stopped either by the ghost or by Maria. I wish we'd shot that scene because that would have made more logical sense. The zoom in on the scissors is another reference to the giallo genre. What I like about the giallo genre is that it takes the perspective of the character that's in the scene whose point of view that we're following, and I feel like the shot design is catered to having that subjective point of view. I wanted to show the audience that Maria was struggling with the decision of what to do. Is she going to kill Dario or set him free and disobey Mother? If she disobeys Mother, she'd be jeopardizing her son's life. It's always good to watch a character actively make a choice, whether that's the right one or the wrong one. I'm always freaked out of the sight of somebody staring at me through a window. Another reason the scene is there is because it allows us to give a reason as to why Dario does not just flee from the house. By showing Mother standing outside the house, Dario realizes that he is surrounded and he has nowhere to run. Keeping a candle lit outside of a house in the middle of winter is one of the hardest things you'll have to do. So my advice is don't do it. This is another one of those distracting the audience with one thing and then hit them with something else. We had to have two actors dressed as Mother. The main actress playing Mother was standing outside holding the candle, and our producer Patrick had to stand inside dressed as Mother. When we originally shot the scene, the light in the hallway was not flickering. The reason the light was not flickering is because the location owners did not let us change the lighting fixtures. So a word of advice, so when you go location hunting, make sure you've stated in the contract that you will be switching out lighting fixtures, that you will be taking down the curtains, and I cannot stress this enough. We had to use VFX to make the light flicker. As you can tell by the shot of the scissors by Maria's side, I'm a big fan of spaghetti westerns, and I wanted to have the feel of a climactic shootout, even though this is a horror movie. Our special effects makeup artist Robert Bravo is a genius. He made sure this was treated as a hot set, and he laid out protective tarp all over the floor, and he ensured that no one was walking in and out of the set so that we could prevent tracking the blood all over this expensive house. I wanted this climax to have a tribal feeling and a feeling of sacrifice, and this is reflected in the music of our excellent composer, Thomas J. Peters. I was debating how much of the bloodletting I should actually let the audience see, and I decided to sneak in one shot of where Mother is chewing into the neck of Dario. This would allow the audience to leave the cinema with a violent image in their mind, even though the actual film is not as violent as that image. Another cheeky chapter heading. I thought it would be funny to end the movie with a cameo of one of my friends. In this case, it's the wonderful actor, my friend and producer, Patrick Rutman, who sneaks himself in a cameo as Mother's next victim. I thoroughly enjoyed making this movie and collaborating with the great team that helped me put it together. I have to give a special shout out to my cinematographer Tommy Oshanak, and to my wonderful composer Thomas Peters, and the always excellent editor Imin Gu. I feel as a filmmaker starting out, the horror genre is a perfect genre to start working in. It allows you to experiment and push yourselves in new directions while making sure that you probably get a return on your investment. If you like this film, let us know in the comments below and give it a thumbs up. You can also follow the film on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at NoFairyTale1. Thanks for watching, and look out for our upcoming horror film, The Pay.